for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. She's a licensed professional counselor, board certified behavior analyst, an author, speaker, as well as a podcast host, none other than Miss Beth Long.
Thank you so much for having me.
Welcome back once again, Miss Beth, to one of my podcasts. As usual, can you please introduce more about yourself that I miss?
Yes. So I have been in the mental health profession for about 25 years, and I've been working with children specifically because at the beginning I just liked working with adults. But then God kind of transitioned me into working with children. I've been working with children for over 10 years or so, and I love working with children and families. And what I learned in working with children and families is that communication, if we don't get language and communication really right or strong, we have a lot of problems in families. So that's what led me to this book, Beyond Words.
Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Miss Beth. And I'm inviting you to be my guest on my Mental Health 101. And let's talk about mental health. What is mental health anyway that people doesn't like to talk about? But anyway, let's talk about your book today, Beyond Words. Your book opens with the provocative questions. What if a child is not misbehaving at all? For a parent who has spent years locked in power struggles, convinced that they're raising a defiant child, and what does it feel like the first time they entertain the possibility that the behavior is not willful disobedience but a skill of waiting to grow?
When I throw this idea out to families, I do get a lot of pushback initially, and then when I explain, let me give a really simple explanation. If we're working with a young 3-year-old who has a lot of language delays, parents often assume that the child understands what they're saying and he's being defiant. And so if I help them really understand he's not defiant, he needs you to show him what you mean. And then I can kind of give them an example like take the child and grab his little hand and get a tissue as opposed to saying, go get a tissue. And then the child does it and they're like, oh, um, it opens a lot of doors, but it also helps the way they view their child and their family.
It's true. They're not helping with the emotional side of the child. You argue that misbehavior is a missing skill in disguise. Walk us through the common scenario, say a 5-year-old's meltdown in the grocery store. What is missing skill at that moment, and what does it look like to respond to the deficit rather than the behavior?
So, okay, so that's a great question. I'm going to give you all the things it could be. So it might be that child doesn't have emotional flexibility. So they're kind of rigid in that if they want what they want, they don't have the skill of going. It's okay. I can't always have what I want. They definitely don't have great emotional regulation skills, which is our ability to be upset and manage it without a big meltdown. Um, I'm going to also say it's very possible that they don't have language skills. And even if they have language skills, they may not have language skills when they are emotional. So all of those things could be deficits, skill deficits. So when we're in a crisis moment, like our child is melting down in the middle of the grocery store, that's a crisis moment. That is not the time to teach skills. So we're just going to manage the crisis. Some families would hurry up and finish the shopping trip. Some families would leave the cart and take the kid to the car. Whatever is right for you, you just have to manage that crisis. But then later, after everybody's calmed down, what I try to propose to families is let's reenact the scene and act out what should have happened. And don't talk about it. He's 5 years old. Don't talk about it. Act it out. and really play it out, play it out, play it out. I love to play games for emotional regulation skills, but not emotional regulation games, normal games, because people don't play games enough. Number one, but number two, um, children learn a lot by losing and not getting their way, and having to congratulate their sibling who just won, or if we change the rules on them, they have to practice being tolerant and very flexible. So it's a great way to practice those skills that the child was missing in the grocery store.
Very well said. Ms. Beth, you've spent over 20 years in clinical practice as a both psychologist and behavior analyst.
Mhm.
When did you first realize that traditional discipline paradigms, consequences, punishments, and rewards was missing something fundamental? Or was there a child or a family who taught you to see differently?
About I would love to say my children are adults. They're 24 and 22. So I would love to say that I noticed this 24 years ago, but that is not true. It was about 10 years ago that I realized if I continue to look at it like something that needs to be punished or have a consequence, I'm never teaching. So, I mean, a great consequence for inappropriate behavior is practice and doing what they should do. If that's the consequence, then yes, I'm teaching. But a lot of times, I'm just reacting to my own frustration, and I'm not actually teaching what needs to happen instead. So, I had a little boy that I was working with, and he had a lot of great big emotional reactions around schoolwork, and his problem was that he couldn't hold a pencil. So when I realized, wait a minute, it's this simple. He has a hard time holding the pencil. I'm going to help him learn how to hold the pencil, and then he's going to stop having these big emotional reactions. And I mean, it wasn't overnight, but he learned how to hold a pencil with no problem. He got better at his schoolwork. Then we kind of worked on staying emotionally regulated, but it all went back to that pencil. But no pediatrician, no parents, no teachers had thought, oh, maybe he can't hold a pencil correctly. So that was kind of my eye-opening moment.
Beautiful story, Miss Beth. The book's subtitle promises the art of effectively communicating with your children. Why art rather than science? Where does the artistry come in? Where you also clinician grounded to evidence-based methods?
So they're right. There is a lot of science, but to implement that science as a parent is truly an art form, because we all want to lean back on how we were taught, or we all want to, parenting doesn't always bring out the best in us. So we like it's an art to learn to be quiet and observe. It's an art to wait until the right time to teach. It's an art to wait for the right time to have a very difficult conversation with your teenager instead of in the moment. So that's where the art comes from.
Certainly, there's an art for that. Once your core teaching is moving from correction to connection. For a
Mhm.
parent raised in a household where correction was love, where spanking, yelling, or stern discipline was the norm, what does it actually feel like to shift? Is it an awkward at first, or does it feel permissive?
I think for most people, it feels permissive.
Yeah.
What we know, what research says about punishment is that it doesn't teach anything. All it does is it changes the child's behavior in front of the person who punishes them. That's all it does. So I always tell parents punishment really just leads to sneaky children. And most parents say, yeah, it did. That's exactly what I did growing up. So that so most parents are kind of excited about it, but they do have to work through because they've kind of been taught you have to punish in the moment, or you have to respond in the moment. So when I try to help them understand the way the brain works and is able to learn that we just stop bad behavior, but we don't teach in the moment, then they begin to understand, okay, it's not permissive parenting. It's actually a lot harder, but it creates long lasting change, not sneaky children.
Miss Beth, you emphasize that children do well when they have the skills they need to succeed. This
Mhm.
sounds simple, but it's actually a radical reframe of human nature. It suggests no child wants to fail and no child wants to be difficult. What is the evidence from your clinical work that this is true?
So I would say, I mean, there are some research articles out there that most people, they do the best they can when they have the skills to do well, they do well. So it's children all the way through adulthood. However, in working with really difficult children, I have learned when when their parents aren't around and their teachers aren't around, they are broken and they so badly want to do well. A lot of people assume that they want to misbehave, but they don't. They grieve the inability to do the right thing.
Beautifully articulated. Ms. Beth, you work in six different clinical environments across the
Mhm.
countries as a military wife. How has that exposure to diverse families and contexts shape your understanding of what universally helps children thrive, regardless of the background or circumstance?
It I mean, yeah, like my entire life has kind of led me to this moment in this work that I do. It is the universal desire of most people to do well. There are people who become so discouraged that they stop trying. There are, and that's heartbreaking. But when you dig underneath that and you give some support, universally people want to be better tomorrow compared to today. And I have seen that, like I said, from the tiniest children all the way through adulthood.
Certainly. So you practice incorporate and spiritual dimension for families
Mhm.
who share those values while remaining accessible to all. How does spiritual sensitivity inform the way you talk about connection, forgiveness, and growth within the families?
So I'm a Christian and I work with a lot of Christian families. I don't solely work with Christian families, so I lean into what every family wants and needs, right? But for Christian families, they do come with a little more baggage of where the church has misinterpreted the word of God, and um, the rod was not just used for physical punishment, but a lot of Christians were taught that. So helping them understand that the rod is actually used to protect the sheep, to bring the sheep right back by the shepherd, to guide the sheep, to lead the sheep, to show the sheep exactly where to go. And the shepherd spent a lot of time with the sheep doing what the sheep needed to do, as opposed to just disciplining the sheep for not doing what they needed to do. So I help them learn that. And then I think for most Christians, if we really lean into what is the Holy Spirit calling you to do, right? Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self control, then that is how we are called to parent. So if I lead with my anger and not my patience, that's not what God is calling me to do. So I really strive to help people understand, not just in parenting, but in all things, our goal is to react with the fruit of the Spirit.
Certainly, the fruit of the spirits. And the hardest thing to do is the self control, for sure.
Yes, 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 yes.
So, you identify specific skills deficit that masquerade as behavior problems,
Mhm.
emotional regulation, flexibility, problem solving, as well as communication. If a parent could only focus on teaching one of these skills in the next month, what would be the yield the biggest transformation in family life?
So skills are developmental, right? When we build skills, the first and most important skill is language and communication. I can't. It's almost impossible to get social cooperation or emotional regulation skills if I don't have the language. So I would 100% spend most of your time and energy on language. And when I try to teach parents those skills, I tell them to focus on never assuming that their child knows what they're saying. Always go with their child, show them so that they know they're receptively understanding what was said. And then I always tell parents to go out of their way to teach their children to ask permission, because that's working on impulse control and so many other things. But we want to help children understand I have to communicate first. So that's where you're going to get the biggest bang for your buck is working on language and communication.
Beautifully articulated, Ms. Beth. You talk about using everyday moments to build emotional intelligence and resilience. Give us an example of everyday moment, a low shoe or refused vegetable, a homework battle, or that becomes a classroom for life skills. What does a parent say or do differently in that moment?
So let's use the example of homework battle because food is so tricky.
Yes.
So right, it's like there's so many factors of food, but we'll use homework. So if I'm working with a child who really struggles with attending skills, then in the beginning, I'm gonna fold that homework and show one problem and say, okay, I want you to sit down and do this one problem. Now go take a break. And I'm very open and honest with children. This is what we're working on. We're working on you learning to do hard things. We're working on you paying closer attention. Okay. So then they have their little break and we come back inside or whatever and we say, okay, we're going to work really hard and do these two problems. And let's say, and then the child has has to do three in a row. And when that happens, if the child struggles with three in a row, we're going to go back to two in a row, and we're going to do two in a row a couple of times, and then we're going to try three in a row. But we want to try to set the child up for success as much as possible. So if I look at it from a skills standpoint, my child can attend to two math problems. He can't attend to three. So our goal is now three, not five. But a lot of times parents are pushing the skill too fast, and that's where the battle comes in.
Interesting, Miss Beth. You've been doing this for over 2 decades. When a family truly makes the shift you're describing, from punishment to teaching, from correction to connection, what is the first thing they notice has changed in the parent, in the child, and the atmosphere at home?
I think the biggest thing that people notice first is the peace in the parent's heart, because the parent understands it's not willful disobedience, they're struggling. So that shift in thought alone is healing, because you're not looking at your child as the enemy, you're looking at your child as begging to be taught. So that helps a lot. And then when parents have a little more peace, children have more peace. uh, Anxiety is contagious, but so is peace, so is calm. So when the parents are a little more calm, the child is a little more calm. And and everybody is now is the assumptions that we are making about each other are much more generous. So the home life is much better.
Certainly. And Ms. Beth, you emphasize building unshakable connections. That's a strong phrase. What makes a parent child connections unshakable? And how does a parent repair when they damage that connection through their own reactive moments?
So the biggest way we make unshakable connections is we create an environment where everybody, it's okay for everyone to fail and learn to do better. So when we as parents fail, because we fail all the time, when we as parents fail, we have to focus on repair, which means, hey, I am so sorry that I raised my voice. That was completely inappropriate. I am so sorry. I'm going to set a goal to stay calm when I get frustrated. I need you to help me practice that goal. And then we, just like you would do with the child. So I would almost make it a little game, like, okay, I want you to pick up that glass plate. You know you're not allowed to, and I'm going to practice staying calm. I want you to run down the hallway when you know you're not allowed to, and I'm going to practice being calm. Now, not in general, we would do it very quickly in that moment, but we want to build that child's ability to understand we all fail, we all practice to do better, and we all get better.
Certainly. So, Miss Beth, the book is not just about managing behavior, it's about transforming everyday struggles into a lifelong strength. What is the lifelong strength that you have seen emerge in a child whose parent embrace this approach? Something that stayed them into the adulthood.
So when I think one of the things that we get really wrong in the American culture is that we give children free access to what they want. So part of the book is about teaching your children to work hard for what they want. And and then when they practice those skills and they meet those goals and they do the hard work, then they kind of earn what they want. What we are building in them is this unbelievable resilience and grit. And grit is the ability, like resilience, right, is the ability to push through and persevere even when it's hard. But grit is the ability to do that for a long time. So when they have been raised with that mentality of, I have to be teachable, I can learn to do anything if I work hard enough, I have to persevere when things get hard. Hard work is worth what it takes to get what I want. We have pretty amazing results and pretty amazing adults.
Very well said, Miss Beth. But before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people, because my abstract essay is already in sixth season, abstract poetry in third season, and of course my book 101 review in sixth season too, a comedy 101 in fourth season, and my food 101 in sixth season as well. Geography 101, love letters, movie 101 review, music 101 are in fifth season, Science 101, Sex 101 in its fourth season, and of course my baby podcast, Trivia 101, Motivation 101, Spiritual Awakening 101, Entrepreneurship 101, Law 101, Mental Health 101, Coaching 101, and of course my Bible Verses 101. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Miss Beth, finally, you've titled the book Beyond Words.
Mhm.
That's beautifully play on your own name, but it's also a profound statement about communication. What do children communicate the words can't capture? And what does the parent need to become to receive those messages?
Uh, oh, that's a great question. Definitely, children are struggling to understand. So when we're there, when our physical presence is there and we're leaning in to help them understand, we are capturing all of this love and energy and time and effort and just partnership and community. Um, so talk is cheap. Time and energy is what it requires to parent well.
Time and energy for sure, and I think patience too. Much of the parents don't have a patience. Patience is a virtue, people. Please cooperate with your children. Make them something in the future that build legacy to the world. Just like Miss Beth, creating this legacy will echoes from our generations to generations to come. So, Miss Beth, I'm inviting you to please do come over to my Bible verses 101 as well as Mental Health 101. And that will be a great contribution for sure. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your book, your advocacy, your podcast, or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
Yes. So the book is available on Amazon. It's a great book. I love it. It has a lot of great reviews.
Yes.
I we also have we are on our I'm so sorry. Our website is worksofwondertherapy@gmail.com. Please reach out if you would love any support. And then I'm on all the social medias as Beth Long or Beth Long PhD, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, all the stuff. So please just like, follow, subscribe.
Yes, indeed. People support Miss Beth Long because if you support her for sure, more and more empowering advocacy like this to rise. So, Miss Beth, looking forward for more episodes for my podcast. And let's empower people all over the world through your knowledge and wisdom. Such great to have you on Book 101 Review, as well on Abstract Essay and for my future podcast. So, Miss Beth, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
More to come, people.